Ladies and gentlemen, once again a very warm welcome to the third international conference on enterprise and entrepreneurialism in tourism and hospitality organized by the Department of Tourism and Hospitality Management, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. The department took the initiative to focus on tourism and hospitality entrepreneurship, bringing stakeholders and academic leaders into an interface with the government with a view to prepare for the challenge for the new normal, which we are into. On behalf of the Department of Tourism and Hospitality Management, Jamia Millia Islamia, I extend a very warm welcome to all our eminent panel members of the session. So, dear delegates, for the topic of the session is tourism and hospitality entrepreneurship and higher education. Entrepreneurship is the engine that derives any successful industry or economy in the rapidly evolving tourism and hospitality sector. Worldwide, tourism industry plays an important role in the business development, hospitality and leisure industries. I welcome all the panelists to very exciting panel discussion on tourism and hospitality, entrepreneurship and higher education. Today we have here with us very talented and experienced leaders of tourism and hospitality academia. To begin the proceedings of the session, I have the proud privilege of introducing our eminent panelists. We have with us Professor Parikshit Singh Manhas, sir. Sir is the Director, School of Hospitality and Tourism Management, Faculty of Business Studies, Rector, Udhampur Campus, University of Jammu. Sir is also Coordinator of Global Understanding course at University of Jammu, being run in collaboration with East Carolina University, USA. Sir is also the coordinator and CEO of Promoter Director, University of Jammu, a Special Purpose Vehicle Foundation, a Section 8 company, Director, University Business Incubation and Innovation Center, University of Jammu, Coordinator, National Innovation and Startup Policy and President, Institution Innovation Council, University of Jammu, a Innovation Cell, Ministry of HRD, Government of India initiative. Presently, Sir is a member and member of the task force for the implementation of National Education Policy 2020, Government of Jammu and Kashmir, and co-leader organizing committee of UNWTO, affiliate member working group on tourism and culture synergies. Sir is also a regional director, Asia and Eastern Europe for World Center of Excellence for Destinations. Sir is also a president of Commerce Management Association of India. Sir was also a fellow of the Australia-India Institute, New Delhi. Professor Parikshit Manhas sir was also the member of the Tourism Advisory Board of the State of Jammu and Kashmir, which was headed by the Honorable Chief Minister of the State of Jammu and Kashmir. On the panel, we have Professor Ashish Dahiya sir, who is currently a professor at the Institute of Hotel and Tourism Management and the founder director of Center for Life Skills and Soft Skills, Maharishi Dayanand University, Rohtak, which is located in Haryana. Sir is a renowned speaker of hospitality and tourism management with a demonstrated history of working in the university administration and industry. Professor Ashish Dahiya sir has established hotel and tourism management in various universities in India and abroad. Sir is skilled in hospitality, operation and management, food of India, hygiene and housekeeping. Sir is a strong academic professional with an attitude for research, over 20 years of experience. Professor Ashish sir comes with hands-on expertise across hospitality and tourism industry as well as education. An immersive specialist, sir has been in pre-opening of leading luxury hotels. He has established several university teaching departments of hospitality and tourism in India as well as abroad, particularly UAE. He is also an associate editor of the International Journal of Hospitality and Tourism Systems, only Scopus Index Journal of HCM from India. Sir is combining his expertise to start and develop space with effective leadership towards preparing a new generation of talent for tomorrow's world. Sir has developed online content for platforms of Ministry of Education, Government of India, and of course, the list is endless. And our eminent panelist, we have Professor Monica Prakash ma'am. Ma'am is a professor at North India campus of Indian Institute of Tourism and Travel Management, Noida. And ma'am is also the heading IITTM South India campus, which is based in Nellore. Ma'am is currently leading the prestigious Incredible India Tourist Facilitator Program of Ministry of Tourism, Government of India. Professor Monica Prakash, ma'am, is a researcher, trainer, academic administrator. Ma'am has published more than 45 papers and 7 books. Ma'am has supervised doctoral research and lend-funded research for the Ministry of Tourism and ICSSR, among others. Ma'am was also the chief coordinator of the guides training program, which was by the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India. Ma'am has presented papers and moderated chaired sessions at various national and international conferences. Professor Monica Prakash, ma'am, has traveled extensively in and outside the country. Ma'am holds double masters in commerce, that is an MCom, as well as MBA in management and PhD in commerce. And lastly, on the panel, we have the distinguished panelist, Professor Ibohal Methi, sir, who is a professor at Manipur University and Director Center for Entrepreneurship and Skill Development, Manipur University. Sir is having more than 28 years of academic and industry experiences. At present, Sir is a member of the Advisory Committee for Industry and Social Development, Government of Manipur, and also member of the Task Force Committee for Implementation of National Education Policy 2020 in Manipur. Professor Methi sir was also the director, Manipur Institute of Management Studies, Manipur University for 2 terms. Professor Ibohal sir earned his MBA from Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh. Further, sir had completed FDPM from IIM Ahmedabad and PhD from Manipur University. Sir had more than 40 publications in various reputed journals, and sir has presented paper and chaired the sessions in international and national seminars held at various premier institutions in the country and as well as outside the country. Sir was the main architect to establish the Center for Entrepreneurship in Manipur University and introduction of BWalk and MWalk in tourism and hospitality management under the UGC's NSQF Skill Development Program. Now, I would like to invite our head of the department and the conference chair, Dr. Sara Hussain ma'am, to welcome our eminent panelists for the day of this panel discussion.
Professor Ibohal Methi, Professor Monica Prakash, Professor Parikshit Singh Manhas, and Professor Ashish Daya. I warmly welcome you to the panel discussion on this extremely important topic, tourism and hospitality, entrepreneurship and higher education. Your expertise, your experience in this area of developing entrepreneurship amongst the higher education institutes is highly commendable. And you've created a benchmark for yourself, for others to follow. And today, during the various discussions and keynotes, we learned that entrepreneurs in hospitality and tourism need to possess business, technical and managerial skills. They're required to become successful entrepreneurs along with some personal attitude that they have. And through this session, we wish to bring to light what has been accomplished and what is yet to be explored, so that the youth of today are self-reliant after seeking education at our higher education institutes. So today we are all ears to learn from your unparalleled experience. And over to Arman, who's a PhD scholar and the moderator for today's session.
Sure. Thank you, ma'am. Now, I request Professor Parikshit Manhas sir for his opening remarks to initiate the panel discussion.
Very good afternoon to Dr. Sara Hussain, the chief organizer of this particular conference, and my fellow panelist, Professor Ashish Daya, dear friend, Monica ma'am, namaskar, Ebolji, namaskar. Nice meeting you again, meeting you rather, and greetings to our moderator. I could also see Professor Nimit Chaudhary somewhere around, but I can't see him now, but a very good afternoon to you too, sir. Maybe because of Monica ma'am, he just vanished away. He thought I should not be around in the same frame as she is. Thank you. Thanks a lot for giving me the second opportunity. I was there yesterday, spoke about the tourism or the entrepreneurship aspect and what India needs to work on and talk about and develop, and gave a detailed presentation yesterday. So today I'm going to take a different focus. I'm going to move towards the higher education aspect and then try to link it up with tourism entrepreneurship. So what changes we need in the higher education setup? That's the angle that I'm going to pick up today, because one angle I covered yesterday. So I thought the audience or my students or the conference participants should get another aspect to know about it. So first of all, what I feel is vis-a-vis India is concerned, long-standing issues were there, but with National Education Policy 2020, obviously a very important aspect or a very big or a giant leap has been taken. The first step, obviously, which is the hardest, has been taken. And this is going to be a big boost to our skilling programs, towards our startup programs, and towards our entrepreneurship programs. Where do I see tourism and hospitality as an entrepreneurial stream, and how higher education can work it up? Kudos to Jamia Millia Islamia University and their tourism department, the way they have been getting along with different professors around the globe and asking them to present their thought processes. So I feel the first and the foremost aspect is the internationalization and global outreach of tourism and hospitality education of India. That's the first step that I would recommend for the higher education stakeholders. Internationalization is the key thing, because that's when you are able to build up those benchmarks, you are able to understand the thought processes, and then you are able to develop those particular thought processes. So that's a very important aspect. So I feel that higher education has to look at it and start looking at this particular aspect, because this is something which will help us build up that internationally relevant curricula. So I could just listen to the last few words of Professor Stephen, but the way things are developing around the globe, I think we should have a ready information source available everywhere. And this international benchmarks could also be one of those sources of motivation for our students, but it could also help the stakeholders, that's the universities within our country, to develop that particular curricula which is internationally relevant, which is relevant for the entrepreneurial aspects, and which can actually build it up. See, it's a cycle. It pushes one thing, pushes another. Because if this thing happens, and if we are able to get that internationalization aspect and build up that curricula, and our students are able to build up, I think they will get those ideas which are globally available. We are not the number one in producing unicorns around the globe. US is, China is the biggest unicorn. The TikTok comes from China. So we are not the ones. But why are we not? Because we are not facilitating that innovation aspect, that innovation aspect. When I set up a Section 8 company, Special Purpose Vehicle Foundation, SPV Foundation, it's called Special Purpose Vehicle Foundation, and it is classified in the Government of India company laws. It's a Section 8 company. Even Raj Bhavan, even the people at the highest office wrote back to me, कि ये कौन सी गाड़ी खरीद रहे हो आप जो इसके लिए आपने ये proposal बनाया? So the vehicle, they were referring it to as some sort of a automobile that we were trying to purchase. Yaar, kaun si vehicle aa rahi hai, we are not aware of. Kindly explain it to us, which the university wants to buy. We are one of the first universities in the country to open up a company. We as a university, you know what the model is in Malaysia? Every educational institution is usually owned by a company, and the 70% salary comes from the educational institution and 30% from the salary. The 30% comes from the company, and all the professors have to do that consultancy for those particular companies. So we want to improve our GII, Global Innovation Index, but that can only be done when we follow those international standards, when we get those practices over here. And for that, just not this particular aspect, but one more important aspect needs to be looked at. That is the inward mobility of the foreign students. We hardly have any inward mobility of any foreign student in tourism and hospitality industry. Even Bhutan se koi nahi yahan padhne aata. So look at the fact. No, hardly few students from Nepal would be studying here and there, but I haven't come across international students in the field of tourism and hospitality. I don't know whether ITTM has a couple of them or not, but that inward mobility of foreign students, that only would happen if our curricula is internationally acclaimed, internationally acceptable. And once those people will come, they will help us understand those those aspects. So that is one aspect that I wanted to cover up, because I know 6 to 8 minutes are given to me, and I'll quickly come to another aspect, which I would say is partnerships, building partnerships with the industry. I think first aspect would be getting industry sponsored chairs within our educational institutions, in the HEIs, higher education institutions. I again am not aware of any institution which has a tourism related chair in their institutions. Neither there are any Government of India schemes for this. Yes, we have chair on maybe national politics or geopolitics or other related streams, but none on tourism, hospitality. There is no chair. So why is not Tata's thinking of, Taj Group thinking of opening up or facilitating a couple of chairs in universities? Why not other big brands are thinking of tourism and hospitality? Because we would want people with industry focus established as professors, or professors who are sitting on these chairs getting an industry relevant experience. And this would actually facilitate that industry, academia, government interface, which we keep talking about. This Industry Connect program will then build up. And once that builds up, obviously entrepreneurship is going to be a big aspect for tourism and hospitality industry. In my school of hospitality, in past 8-9 years, we have produced 100 first generation entrepreneurs, even more than that. But the fact is that how much support are we actually able to give to them? In these times of crisis, when we had for past 2 years, we could hardly support them. We could hardly provide them. Niti Aayog could play a very important role. The Int'l incubation centers, the Int'l community innovation centers, we have got ACIC one, we are approved. My SPV, I got one approved, only 20 in the country, one of the few universities, but we're still awaiting our grants. So Int'l educational innovation programs related to tourism and hospitality. We have in Northeast, we have Assam has, I think, State Institute for Transforming Assam, SITA. So why not have all these things? So these are the two talking points which I would want my students, my fellow panelists to take a look at it, and other members who are listening to our discussion today. And the questions in the end would be more than welcome. I think I was within my time limit. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. It was very pertinent that the institution should make the academia industry connect, as well as we should follow the international curricula in terms of the entrepreneurship. We will discuss more on this. Let me invite our second panelist, Professor Ashish Daya sir, for his opening address.
Thank you, Mohammad Arman, for having me introduced and invited. And I'd like to express thanks to Dr. Sara Hussain, head of the Department of Tourism and Hospitality at Jamia Millia Islamia. And namaskar to my co-panelists, Professor Parikshit Singh Sahab, Madam Monica Prakash, and Professor Iqbal Sahab. And greetings to everyone online who is here listening to me. Well, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Firstly, I would like to begin with the point that you see, we all will agree to the fact that informal, unorganized, small and medium enterprises, they contribute to a great part of India's GDP, which are often neglected. The policies, the planning, they are usually for the unicorns, big houses, or the giants or the industry leaders. Across the world, people talk about globalization and going for international benchmarks. But simultaneously, we need to understand that in a diverse nation like India, where we have a mixed economy, there is a great role of these unorganized small medium enterprises. And when we look towards the domain like tourism and hospitality, it is more in informal, unorganized, or small and medium enterprises. Particularly when we talk about tourism, the stake is more there. Yes, in hospitality, you may find that there are luxury, huge hotel chains with investments and investors both internationally and within India. Now we need to think about that what can we do in context of these. And when we connect these dots to today's discussion of tourism and hospitality, enterprise and higher education, we have to first go to the root cause that why we are debating about enterprise, entrepreneurship and higher education and tourism and hospitality. Firstly, I think we need to answer this question that when we ask people that what is the time they prepare or they think for their careers, the apt time is school level, 8th, 10th, 12th. And when you ask parents or the students or their teachers and ask them what the student or the school student should be aiming for a career, surprisingly, you will not find hospitality and tourism in the top 10 careers list at the school level. So that leads that there is lack of awareness, and the host population of motherland India across pan India is yet to realize the benefits of hospitality and tourism. The moment they realize it, the moment they reap benefits out of it, it automatically comes into the top 10 career listings. And let's say that out of them, those who have opted for universities and colleges. Another interesting question that comes is, what do they aim to be? Let it be Jamia or Jammu University or Pondicherry University or Maharishi Dayanand University, Rohtak or IITTM or any of the IHMs under the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India. You ask students if you have opted for a course of hospitality and tourism in both undergraduate or postgraduate or even doctoral studies. If not all, majority of them are going to answer, they look forward for international careers, they look forward for a management trainee position, they look forward to work in leading organizations. Despite recognizing the fact that a major chunk of hospitality and tourism is in small, medium, unorganized and informal sector. So even while doing the program, if not all, majority of them are not aware of that they can have some opportunities here and can shape their bright careers. Interestingly, the one which guides them, which helps them to navigate through this journey, the mentors, faculty, and syllabus. The syllabus also is confined to only concepts and foundations, confined to one paper of entrepreneurship in tourism and hospitality, or entrepreneurship and small and medium enterprises, and so and so. Why not practical implications? Why not syllabus talks about startups on the campus? Why not we think about that if any food outlet has to go in Jamia or Pondicherry University or MD University Rohtak or Jammu University or say any university in India, I have a question for debate here. Medical Council of India formulates a norm that no medical college can run without a hospital. Do you think a domain like hospitality and tourism can run without a hotel or a tourism firm? I think let it not be a mandatory requirement, but then let we as an academicians volunteer for it. That the universities, educational institutes offering hospitality and tourism programs look forward for having startups on the campus. Why we should not have provisions for getting FSSAI, GST, formulation of firms or companies right at the institutional level? In present context, we do teach them about GST slabs. We do teach them about mandatory requirements, but let that be connected to the practical life. Let there be some provisions that right at the undergraduate or the postgraduate at the time of course completion, a group being passing out and they have got an FSSAI registration, they have got GST, they have got firm or company formulated. And why they should not be motivated for essentially going for some startups, restaurant operations, travel and tourism operations. Let the people from alumni who from your respective institutions who are into this business, let them start mentoring them and let them gain some experience and let them step into it. Another interesting point which must be there in a curricula should be that it shouldn't be confined only to success stories. No, majority of the course curriculums talk about success stories of Haldiram. Most of the curriculums talk about success stories of various restaurants or various hotel chains. We also need to let our learners know about, let them have a preparedness about the failures also. Let there be some components of certain companies, certain firms, certain enterprises which failed. What led to that? What are the lessons learned from them? Probably the firms which could not succeed can let the learners know more about that. What were the challenges? What were the points which they missed, which probably the young learners can learn? And they would be ready that in case if they have a challenge, that's fine. They would be prepared to accept failures. Moving ahead, here lies the role of entrepreneurship development cell. Integrating this into the ecosystem of the university. Here lies the role of innovation. What can be possible domains? What can be the possible areas and how these can help them to nurture their minds, to nurture their dreams and to pursue them. And this will happen when an integrated approach is adopted. We must connect to the real life challenges of informal sector. I can say it with certainty that 10 out of 9 universities in India would not be having provisions that a learner goes to an informal sector in travel, tourism or hospitality for an internship and they accept it. They'll say, no, you essentially have to go for an organized sector. So if one is going to the pioneers who are into an organized sector, the iconic hotel chains like Taj, Oberoi's or Mercury Travels, they will certainly learn best of the practices of the trade. But then why we should not have 2 internships? Let learners go one for an organized sector and let the learners go for one to an informal sector which also has a major chunk. Let them see that what challenges an entrepreneur faces. Let a learner explore that what kind of entrepreneurial skills he possesses, what kind of spirit the learner has, and what kind of career we can help him to shape in entrepreneurship. There are beautiful examples from everyday life, which most of the management gurus or management mantras do tell. I'll still remember a beautiful story or an anecdote when I was studying at Institute of Hotel Management. I remember we were few friends and we went to watch a movie. I still remember it, Dil Chahta Hai. And there was a time when you used to go to cinema halls. It was a board placed outside, house full. They were amazing times. And what used to happen? There were people standing outside looking, oh, there are a group of 4 or 5 people, group of 2 people, and a ticket, let's say if that was of 40 rupees, they'll sell it to you twice, thrice, 4 times, 5 times. Now, one of the friends who was there with us was probably exposed to it. So when we saw houseful board, houseful, we said, oh my God, we'll have to pay much higher to the cost of the ticket. He said, hold on. All right, we waited. And what happened? After some time when the tickets could not be sold, so from 5 times it came to 3 times, 3 times to 1 time. And when it was that the movie has started, 5 minutes gone. So the sellers were ready to sell even at a discounted rate. Now, the one who had been into the real world, the one who had been into the informal sector, I'll not talk about best practices or good or bad here. I'll just try to take out some management perspectives, right? So, since the fellow was exposed to the real life situation, he could help us. He could help us to understand that if you have patience And if you have persistence, you can go ahead, you can win. So I think given the time frame allotted to me, I'll conclude my viewpoint that yes, there is enormous scope for enterprise and enterprise development in tourism and hospitality. This sector strongly promotes entrepreneurship, but then we seriously need to think and rethink how to make sufficient provisions for it and identify the problems right from the root cause. Let us have some programs to inspire school students for hospitality and tourism. Let us have some programs to extend support to the schools which CBSE or other boards have initiated to introduce tourism or hospitality at vocational level, to strengthen those programs. And let us, as academicians, ignite those minds. And once they step into university ecosystem, let us offer them an ecosystem which is full of real life challenges and help them to gear up for real life, both for success and failures. I think that's the best way we can do and utilize the government policies, machineries, and mechanism to develop the youth of India. With this, thank you so very much. My good wishes.
Thank you so much, sir. I totally resonate with your views. May I call and request Professor Monica ma'am to share her opening address.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Thank you so much, Arman. And in fact, if I could just see the list of people out there, I would find half of my ITTM students there on the panel. But before than that, I would just like to wish Dr. Sara Hussain for once again putting up such a wonderful show. I know this has been a very difficult time, a time when people have been sitting back thinking in terms of what to do, and with every day uncertainty and unpredictability coming in, it really becomes difficult to bring everybody down to the panel. But her efforts go the way it is being organized, and ever since yesterday I've been watching it, and I see that she was able to manage everybody together, and once again she's putting up a great show. Now, talking about the topic that has been given, I just carry some different opinions on it. One thing, I don't think this is a very new topic that we are talking about. This is one thing which we have been talking about for ages together. Not that everything would go to the pandemic that we have started speaking about entrepreneurship, but I think this has always been a concern ever since we have realized that tourism education requires some kind of a professionalism, and there has to be a content of entrepreneurialism into it. So one thing is for sure, that what we are talking right now has been, the efforts of the years together, what people have been putting up. I've been hearing to the expert who was speaking before, and very rightly said that we all as academicians, we really need to put all our effort into it. I am now working for IIT, and this has been almost, I'll tell you, approximately 15 years that I've been into the institute. Fortunate enough to be a part of IIT, not because it has groomed me as an academician, but it has given me immense opportunity to be as the trainers, to be as the organizer, to be as the, person responsible for creating courses and all. Given me immense chances to be at every part of India, to get a know-how of how the things are happening, not only dealing with the people who are into tourism, but also be with the people who are not into tourism, but are part of a local community. It is at this point, I would say, that IITM does stand different, and this is where I could say that we could instill some kind of that, entrepreneurial spirit into our students. Now, before I just go of how we have been doing it, just a brief on what is my opinion about this higher education and tourism and hospitality. Let's go it one by one. Now, when I talk in the terms of education, I think that perhaps the word education has always been going in for four things. People have been talking about that education is one for public. That is, you are preparing people for the civility that you want to make them. That you believe that once you are educated, probably you will be able to conduct yourself well into a civic society. I think the purpose was education. One was this. Second was that they wanted people to prepare for employment. I think the whole purpose for making people educated was that let's make them prepared for the employment as such. The third was more for the personal. That means, yeah, you will be more happy, you will be more contented, living a good, peaceful life when you're talking about the word education. So, I mean, in all, if I would see to the word education, it was never meant to be, creating some kind of a entrepreneurialism kind of a thing into it, which I think would be changing with the passage of time and has been changing with the passage of time. Now, we do not see education only from the exposure point of view or creating the employment point of view, but I think education has now taken up a seat where people are talking in terms of creating something new for the society, giving back to the society in some form or the other. Now, from education, let's go back to the next part of it, that is known as the higher education. The purpose of higher education was, again, to earn a good living. So rightly said when Mr. Dahiya said, Dr. Dahiya said that why are we actually teaching our kids? We are teaching our kids just to give them good, living as such, making them more capable of earning more, living up a good life and all. I think that's just not the aspiration of one of the parents as I'm talking about, but I think in general, people have been talking about higher education in this form. So the purpose of higher education was never to create something new or innovative. The purpose has always been employment driven. That means to give employment to a person so that he can make a best out of his living. Now, broadly speaking, people used to believe that the word success for them only would be if you are able to earn good money as such, you're able to live a good life, you have a good vehicle, you have a good bank balance, leaving aside any other kind of a thing. But again, with the time changing, people started realizing that higher education is just not meant for, getting a job, but it is meant for creation and innovation. And it is at this point of a time that word entrepreneurship started gaining up importance. Now, once again, this word is nothing new in the society as such. We have been witnessing changes every time, from the time that we were into a stone age to a time where we are just being completely digital. I think it's all because of this kind of an attribute that people have seen the change. But the question is, why so less number of people are into it? Why is it that the majority of population is still into employment and not into something like self-employability or something like entrepreneurship? So yes, I would say a part of it goes to a higher education because that's where we normally develop and that we normally grow. And so we really need to bring in a lot of change as far as the higher education is concerned. Yes, we have talked about incubation centers. We've always talked about creating a content which is there meant for entrepreneurship. But I think now is the time when we have to start executing and experiencing it. So right from the start, when you are into your schools, to the time when you are into your college or into your higher education, we need to give that kind of a climate to people around so that at least that thing can be nurtured into an individual and perhaps they can come out with something which is good and better for the society. One thing that again, Professor Zaya is talking about it, that it is not, entrepreneurship is just not about the stories of the successful people around. It is also the stories of the people who have been failed. So let's not start documenting the failures of people as such. I mean, if you start documenting the failures as such, you get to know more about it, that why do people fail? Because why people win over can be a fantasy story, can be a created story, and can be a hype story. I mean, we all get inspired when we listen to anybody who tells us a story of how did he actually reach to a height, which could include so many kind of a content. And in fact, if you would just bring down all the contents, they're very similar to each other. But why not talk about the people who have failed? A failure, one thing for very sure, gives us what are the things that are missing. It helps us to learn the gaps which had been there. It helps us to learn what more could have been added to make it more a better kind of an idea. So yes, in education, no matter whether it is a primary education or it is a higher education, it is education meant only for a professional purpose, I think experientialness is something which is very important. Now, let me just share you with a case study of our IITTM as such. In IITTM, because we are a part of Ministry of Tourism and we handle up many projects that are initiated by Ministry of Tourism, not that we just act on or execute what the ministry says, but we also have a good say on whether this kind of a program should be initiated or not. for what any kind of a program, whether it was Guna Se Rozgar, whether it was Virsa Sati, whether it was management development programs, whether it was a small capacity building programs, we are always given an opportunity to brainstorm and come out with what is it that we can introduce into those programs as such. And trust me, when it comes to brainstorming these ideas, we always have a pool of students to whom this kind of a competition is thrown on. And there the students get a chance to tell us what are the new things that they can think about it. A very recent program that we have started up is known as Incredible India Tourist Facilitator Certification Program. I think this is one of the entrepreneurial program that we have with us. Not this is something new, but the area it focuses on is something which is very new. Till now, people have been just talking about tour guiding, and all efforts were there to create tour guides for the nation. But then we at IITTM, along with the people all from all areas, be it the student community, be it from the academicians, be it from the practitioners, we come to a conclusion that we actually need an area where people must know the skill set so that this can be utilized on all places other than the ASI kind of a monuments. And trust me, throughout the journey of how to put this idea into practice, how to actually conceive this idea, put into practice, how to execute it. And it has not been an easy journey because every now and then we are coming out with the challenges as such. So somewhere I was reading that if you experience, perhaps you'll be able to tell things much more better. I think even we as academicians should be given that opportunity. We do have to be a part of someone's program, someone's incubation programs, or someone setting up of an organize, and let us be also part of their entire journey so that throughout the journey, what are the practical things that we learn, at least that can come back to the classes as such. I don't go against to what the concepts are taught in the class. I am a very firm believer of that these concepts actually need to be told to the students. Yes, it could be made in some interesting kind of way. We can change the pedagogy for it. We can change the methodology for it. But I think education without a formal kind of a setup is something which is practically not possible. So as the academicians, we have to have certain kind of responsibilities. One is that for sure, we need to revisit our contents again and again. I know it is difficult in a university setup or into any kind of a setup to make very frequent changes in the curriculum. Yes, they can be there, but every curriculum can have some extra hours dedicated only for the contemporary issues that are taken. As the academicians, we must be a part of some kind of an internship program or some kind of a program whereby we get a hands-on experience that definitely can be passed on to the students. We must definitely encourage students in the class to come out with any kind of an idea. I think we are the ones who normally would not assess the students on the terms of what has been the passing of it. But I think the criteria should not be on how he passes a particular thing, but criteria more should be on how new has he put up an idea to. So I would not just say that it is all on the students to do it. Yes, at mentors also, we really need to change and adapt to the different kind of things. Now, when it comes to a student kind of a community, they will not work till they will not have an apt climate for it. Because students are there for, the numbers, they are there for the divisions, they are there for the marks. There are very few people who are there in the institute only to learn things and not worry about the numbers. So till at all that fear of being, assessed on how much are they going to earn and how would they be looked upon by the teacher if they score low, I think we do not cultivate that type of climate where innovation, where out of the box kind of a thinking can be definitely entertained by the teachers. Nothing would be happening up. And we all know about it. When it comes to tourism entrepreneurship, it is a very small idea that works. So good thing about the tourism, leave aside the hospitality, which requires a lot of investment and which requires a lot of, the financial work of it and the operational activity of it. Leave aside the hospitality part of it, although in hospitality, even the small ventures have started coming up. But when you talk about tourism, I think it is a very small things that are working up well. Talk about walking tours, talking about cuisine tours, talk about the heritage tours. They don't have to create anything. It is just they have to correlate and they have to speak about something new as such. So keeping all these things in mind, yes, there are certain things definitely education has to do. But I think we cannot wait for that education to introduce that into our curriculum, and let's not, wait for the time when it has to be executed. I think I'm just talking on part of the academicians as such. So I think we as academicians can start doing all these things at our own level. I think nobody can stop on for that. Start collaborating, start partnering with people. Let's have mentors who have the success stories, but let us honor also those who could not make it, and let's give them a reason why they could not make it. I think more of that kind of a thought that is given to a child, that more of that feeling of, taking over a risk and taking a belief that they will not be criticized, I think that's going to work out more better. So at this point of a time, I think I had much to say, but I think most of the things are already spoken of by Professor Manas and Professor Daya. So I was just left with few part of it which I really wanted you people to know. So I believe that both the things to merge, talk about the tourism, entrepreneurship, and the higher education. I think they can only go hand in hand once they are complementing each other. So they should not be taken as something very discrete kind of a thing. But to make anything a success, I think synergy is what is always required. And I just hope that all these conferences and seminars, they remain as a seed for thought for people who are listening to it. Not that we don't have to come out and venture out big enterprises as such, but at least whatever part that we play, I think we'll be able to put the seed of thought into it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Arman, and over to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I very much agree with the thought of revisiting the content as well as the experientialness, which is very important. Moving on to the last eminent panelist, Professor Ibohal Metaisa, I request him to share his opening remark for the panel.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Arman. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Sure, sir.
Yes. At outset, I express my heartfelt thanks to the organizing team for giving me this opportunity to be amidst you, Dr. Sarah Hussain, Professor Nimit Chaudhary, and other team members, and my esteemed co-panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Well, the three prominent panelists had already shared so much of insightful thoughts, ideas, and experiences about tourism and hospitality education, and also the kind of a entrepreneurial development they have taken up in this area. I need not to say much of it, but as an academician, what I believe is the development of any country or the region is very much influenced by the entrepreneurship ecosystem the region is having. That means the drivers of economy in any of the country or the region is the entrepreneurs and the entrepreneurs only. And that's why we need to focus more on the entrepreneurship and also the employability. And that's why the new education policy, NEP 2020, had also given so much of emphasis on the vocational and the skill development related courses. So that way, by 2025, 50% of the students starting from class 6 onwards, they are supposed to get vocational exposure, which is a very challenging task. And at the same time, today we are just discussing about the tourism and hospitality entrepreneurship and higher education. So that means the kind of a role the higher education institutions are supposed to play for the employability of their students in general, and especially in tourism and hospitality sector, is of pivotal importance. In fact, we are just running as an academic institution where we're imparting skill development related to tourism and hospitality. And from this academic session onwards, as a part of the implementation of the NEP 2020, we have amalgamated the undergraduate level course and postgraduate level course, the 5 years integrated. And so that we can have more opportunities for the students to get themselves engaged in internship and various other job-related kind of things. So that means today, for creating entrepreneurship ecosystem along with the higher education system, as already the previous panelists also expressed about the requirement of incubation centers, some sort of a entrepreneurship development center in the university or the higher educational institution is very much needed. I definitely endorse to the views, because many of the Indians who completed graduation, general graduation, and even the engineering graduates, the employability is very, very low. When we just talk of the data given by the McKinsey's Global Institute, only 25% of the engineering graduates produced in India, approximately about 3.6 to 4 lakhs engineers per year, only 25% is readily employable. 75% is not. And for the general graduates, BA, BSc, or the BCom, India produces approximately 6 lakh graduates every year, out of which only 10% is readily employable. 90% is not, because of lack of certain skill set or the other. So that's why we need to relook and rethink about the entire education system, the curriculum, the pedagogy, and the overall aspiration of our young boys and girls. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, we need to think employability is again one very important component. The unemployment problem is increasing alarmingly in any states today. And then during the COVID-19 pandemic, the situation is again increasing to many folds. And in fact, all of us have agreed that tourism and hospitality sector had been the worst affected sector during this pandemic. However, we are quite optimistic. We still have many other rooms for the industry to be developed. And I believe the kind of investment we put in any of the sectors of economy, or for that matter, in any industry. For instance, if we invest about 1 million rupee, then tourism sector can generate approximately 71 jobs. Whereas in case of leather industry, it is 51, textile is 27, then electricity is 14, then beverage is 12, and the cement industry is only 6. So that's why the largest job creating sector is the tourism and hospitality. That's why if we just provide right kind of ecosystem, right kind of a hand-holding support to our young boys and girls, why not? We can think of having so much of opportunities of job creation in this sector. So that's why we need to change our mindset of imparting this tourism and hospitality management. Maybe we know that the creation of an enterprise through entrepreneurship in the field of tourism is not a new thing. It has been, this one continuing, but at the same time, we need to identify various other areas, maybe the community and the rural tourism, how we can just link the rural development activities with tourism, because tourism as such, it is a multi-dimensional phenomenon. So that's why we can strategically link for any of the tourism development and tourism entrepreneurship with various other sectors, especially the core sectors of the larger populations of the nation. Say, for instance, in agriculture, tourism, agriculture, agricultural tourism, agrotourism, handloom and handicrafts. That way, we can also link tourism and handloom handicrafts development. Then homestay facilities for many of the people residing in far-flung areas. They can just generate some sort of a income earning activities. And at the same time, we can think of the sustainable livelihood of many of the villages. That's why the students studying in tourism and hospitality management, they can think of making a career in the organized hotel industry or various other tour operator and various other established firms. But at the same time, they can also think of identifying areas where they can themselves become an entrepreneur. And that's why we need to relook and rethink the entire process of education, especially the curriculum. So that's why by integrating these things, tourism and hospitality studies, we may just get some sort of a closer linkages with the people, especially in the far-flung areas where their economic activities could not be activated much. So that's why tourism is a one sector which can touch every sections and the layers of the society. That's why the economic benefit percolated down to these sections can be possible through tourism. So that's why even in the higher education sector, we have a Unnat Bharat mission. We can adopt a village, and a village can be developed as a model for tourist attraction. And some of the hospitality students, they can be sent for the internship. As Professor Deha had already mentioned about the hospitals needed for a medical college. Similarly, for the tourism and hospitality related courses, they require some sort of a hotels or any other hospitality related activities. I fully endorse to it. So that's why we can think of making some mechanism where our young boys and girls can have peer exposure to the ground level. So that's why we can just rethink about the curriculum structure, focus more on the skill development. So that's why I appreciate the kind of a initiatives taken up in the NEP 2020, wherein multidisciplinary kind of a approach, so that the students' creative talents, innovative and creative ideas can be nurtured well. And that's why we are just giving foreign languages as one of the component, because I belong to this one, Manipur, the easternmost corner of India, neighboring with Myanmar. And Myanmar and beyond the Southeast Asian countries, they just would like to pay a visit to India. But continental connectivity, it is not yet possible, but it is coming up as per India's ACIS policy. And that way, Manipur is becoming the gateway of India to Southeast Asian countries. And for that, many of the cultural tourism, that is the Buddhist tourism, or the medical tourism, educational tourism, that is an ample opportunity for us to tap. So that's why our young boys and girls are to be trained, equipped, motivated well to work in this sector, and they can become an individual who can gainfully employed. And for that matter, I would love to suggest many of the academic institutions to have one incubation center, some sort of a corpus fund, where we can also just provide some sort of a support to some of the good business ideas our young boys and girls are having, and they can be given hand-holding support by the university or the institutions and become a successful entrepreneur. Luckily, some of our trainees, some of our students, they have taken up homestay facilities, engaging various works with the potteries, for the handlooms, for the handicrafts, organic products.
I'm sorry, sir. I will be asking the suggestions and the solutions for the institution.
Okay.
Let me just ask for the panel, because each of the panelists have just included the changes in the curriculum and to revisit the curriculum. Let me ask all the panelists a question so that every panelist can share their opinions, that apart from the curriculums, apart from the curricula, how the institutions should move ahead, because in our participants, in our many of the students and delegates are from various institutions in the country. So how I'm going to ask you, all the members in the panel, that how institutions should move ahead in the new normal to create motivation, to create awareness among the students for the tourism and hospitality entrepreneurship, to instill a zeal in them for the Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yes, please, you can share your thought.
Okay, as for this Atmanirbhar Bharat, it is a very much need of the hour. In fact, we need to be self-sustainable in various other factors. And some of the models with the intervention of the new technology, okay, the delivery system, the food items, whatever is the resources available, our own, locally available resources, that needs to be, this one, explored, and it should be tapped fully. So that's why even hospitality, if you are having local recipe, local things, can you just provide a good packaging system so that it can be made available across the globe? That can also be one part. So that's why even the food processing things can be linked with the hospitality, and the items can be made available not only in the locals but across the boundaries. So that is also one part. So that's why what we require some sort of a hand-holding. And in fact, we know that how much government jobs are available today. Government jobs are very limited. Government cannot provide jobs to each and everyone. So that's why what we do is we need to motivate our young boys and girls to think about establishing an entrepreneurial venture, preferably as a team, as a corporate entity, and probably they can become a professionals to work in that area, maybe in the tourism, maybe in the hospitality, or its allied areas about the food supplies, food delivery, okay, for the handlooms, handicrafts.
I think the connection of Professor Ebol sir has been lost. I should move to Professor Parikshit Manhas sir. Sir, your views for the institutions, how they should move to create motivation and awareness among the students?
Well, obviously, it would depend from institution to institution, because it primarily depend upon the resources at the
Money
disposal
can be
of
reached to the prospective entrepreneurs. Yeah, over to you, sir.
Over to Parikshit sir.
So I would say that it would depend from institution to institution, and it would also depend upon the resources at the disposal of the institution, because we cannot club all institutions in one go, and we cannot say that everybody is going to have similar sort of thought process. But in general terms, what I would say is creating a corpus for incubation centers. That's going to be a very important aspect. But when you are designing your syllabi and course curricula, I think having industry representatives on the board of research studies, BORS, which a lot of us have already started doing, but having real-time industry experts who have exposure and who are building it up over a period of time, that would be a very nice aspect. Building up industry relevant curricula, and also when you are making your appointments, when you are employing teachers, obviously teachers with industry experience should be given some preference, some category of that sort, or the teachers who are already in service, they should be encouraged, as we have FDPs and all that stuff. They should also be asked to go for a 6 months or a 8 month sabbatical, go to the industry, start learning, so that they can inculcate it right from the beginning. But as has been said by other panelists also, this to build up entrepreneurs, especially in tourism and hospitality industry, first we have to make tourism and hospitality industry as a first choice industry for the young kids, that they should look at it as a job. For that, a lot of awareness needs to be created within these particular institutions. That's my take.
Okay. Moving on to the Professor Ashish Daya sir. Let me ask a question for Ashish Daya sir, that how can students and individual handle the fear of risk and failure in the process of entrepreneurship?
Thank you, Mohammad Darman. That's a very apt question. You see, first thing, the youth which is there into universities or colleges, they are into that phase of their life where they have maximum risk-taking capacity. If you ask me or Professor Monica or Professor Parikshit or Professor Iqbal Saab, at this stage of time, we might take risk, but that would be a calculated risk. But then the youth who is studying at the moment, they are in the best of their life. They're in the best years of their life. So they can take risk, provided that there are mentors to help them and support them, number one. Number two, as a rule of thumb, particularly in Indian context, the one who is born in India is indeed blessed. That here, the Indian culture is little different from that of the rest of the world. The one who is born in India, the parents take full responsibility till his entire life. So even at this stage, I have no wonders that Madam Monica Prakash or my parents taking care of us, right? So this is a key point that youth in India at this point of time, when they are into university, they don't have to fulfill financial responsibilities of the family or take care of the parents, no matter what kind of economic strata they are from, right? So they can take that risk and they can go ahead. They have nothing to lose at that point of time. And in case if they fail, they have time to step up again and restart. So I think given these set of circumstances, if this is introduced into the ecosystem of universities and higher education with help of innovation and incubation centers and entrepreneurship development cells, along with some promising entrepreneurs who mentor them, I think in a well-defined and a calculated way, the youth can be motivated and they can go ahead into entrepreneurship with a more probability of success and happiness. Thank you.
Moving on to the Professor Monica Prakash, ma'am. Ma'am, what would be your advice to the students for the tourism and hospitality entrepreneurship? What should they do in getting into the process? Ma'am, you are muted.
Thank you, Arman. And the reason why I was smiling was that, it so happens that me and Ashitaya sir seems to think alike. So when he says that we are into a stage where we can, not just the kids, but even we can bear the failure of the kids. So I think that is something which is very common. But coming back to the question that you asked, that how can we instill that kind of a factor into it? I think there are 3 C's. One thing I am very sure about it, that we really need to add on these things as a part of our social value system. So right from the very start, when we are too big, the problem with the parents now on that they are over caring for their kids, over caring in the sense that we remember a time when we had to learn a cycle. I don't think my parents were there to help me to learn a cycle. But now if you would see any child learning a cycle, besides the parents, there would be so many accessories attached to him that the fear of failure, the fear of falling down, the fear of getting hurt, everything is curved up with. So when you are born in such a kind of a protective environment, the tendency to take a risk automatically lessens down. So one thing is for youth, for sure, that the social system must definitely encourage the risk-taking ability. It should not be taken up with the failure anytime, no matter even if you are a failure. I think you must always be appreciated for the effort that you have taken. So much of it goes to the family that you are born and brought up with, much goes to the social environment that you are in with, much goes to the people that you are with. Yes, a part of it also goes in the education that you are in. Now, that is what I told you initially, that for an education part, if I talk about an education part, I don't think that any child should be assessed on the basis of, whether he is written right or wrong. Again, I'm telling you, there's nothing like right and wrong. It is always the gray matter in that area, which matters a lot. So I think we must stop judging the students on the basis of how well articulated they are, but it must be more on the basis of whether they have written something different or not. So that difference or the different thing that they are speaking out must be appreciated. That confidence in a child must definitely be given. Yes, feeling of team spirit or a participation or a collaboration must be introduced into a setup. And at the same time, that creativity content, thinking out of the box. That is what I'm telling you. Any difference that is being made in the class, I think that should be appreciated. So no matter whatever is the type of education, be it in tourism, be it in any kind of a thing, till there will not be any kind of a newness or an innovation, I think nothing is going to prosper. So the other professions have appreciated it. I think it's the time for tourism and entrepreneurship also to appreciate the same. So for me, this is what I would like to say. Thank you, Arman.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We are highly thankful to all our eminent panelists for the insightful and thoughtful addresses, and also to the delegates present in the session. I am sure that the takeaways of this session will enthuse confidence among the delegates as well as the educators and young professionals during the current testing times towards a new normal. Thank you so much. We are running short of time. Dear delegates, please be with us for the workshop on the academic writing, which will begin in a while. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.